It is time for a new release, but this time I don't release a new plugin, but just a new feature of an already existing plugin. As you can see, the plugin in question is NEL, my time domain based vibrato. And you might wonder, in a vibrato plugin that already has so many features, what could still have been added? And you will see very soon on the example of this track. First of all, I want to show you the music without the effect, and you can just guess what might be the problem that is coming up. The only thing that I will spoil you with before going into it is that it has something to do with the vocals.
Summer is over and all my friends are gone. I'm lying around thinking about what went wrong.
Now obviously these are beautifully sung vocals, just like the rest of the music, the way it has been performed. But I think she's also not a too trained singer, like she sounds very casual, like a normal kind of singer. And you can hear that on the long notes sometimes. Let's listen to this again.
Summer is over and all my
It's kinda summer is over, and I think this is stretched out too much. Like a professional singer would probably use a little bit more vibrato in there. Summer is over and all da and stuff like that. Ne? I'm also not a professional singer, of course. If you have watched one of the videos where I'm actually singing, then you know that my vocal performances are not the best. The singer of this band can surely sing better in general, but I think she just doesn't nail the long notes always. It's like something is missing there. You might be wondering why I don't fix that with Melodyne.
summer is over and all
And the problem with fixing vibrato in Melodyne is that it can only enhance the vibrato that is already there, like making it more pronounced or changing the drift. But that's not something that I want to do here, because the amount of the natural vibrato and its drift is already sounding pretty good. Instead, I want to add my own vibrato, and that's what my plugin NEL is useful for. So I have set the buffer size to 4 milliseconds, turned on oversampling and used linear interpolation as the interpolation mode, of course with look ahead, so that the center of the internal delay is always half the delay size. So we get the most natural workflow with vocals. And now when I turn on 100% depth, we should hear a vibrato that is generally too over the top.
summer is over and all my friends are gone.
Obviously that was too much, but that is on purpose. So what we want to do now is write an automation.
Summer is over.
And the first part of this automation should just say we only want to modulate when this long note is going on. Everything else should stay untouched. Now obviously that is not the big new feature yet, but it's what we have to do.
Is over and all my friends are
Okay, something like this, I guess. Let's make it a bit natural here. Now obviously this is too much gain, we have to turn down the depth later, but I want to address another problem first. And in order to really hear what the problem is, we have to reduce the size of the loop and listen to just this bar very closely, maybe adjusting the depth already while doing so.
over and 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 over.
So I don't know if you noticed that, but every time it repeated, it sounded a little bit different. And the reason for that is because I used free running rate. So obviously I could just use the tempo sync rate for that, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to work with hertz instead of beat values, because you know, a natural vibrato is just not perfectly on the 16th or on the 8th or something like that, but just on any frequency that sounds kind of natural at that moment. So I made one on 2.4 hertz and one on 5.5 hertz more or less, and they are mixed together a little bit so that you get the best of both worlds, so to say. And now I want to actually be able to kind of make them stuck on always the same sound when the loop repeats, and I'm doing that by changing the phase knob. Now every time the phase is not on 0, you can see this little procedural word popping up, which now tells you that this is a procedural LFO. Now obviously a sync LFO is always a procedural one, but when you are using the free running LFO, then you have to change the phase parameter in order to make it procedural. And procedural in this case just means that whenever you hit exactly this point in the project, then it will always sound the same at this point, which is really useful for situations like this, because now I can actually tweak the sound of the vibrato without having to think of the actual curve, because that's something that I wanted to avoid. I just want to have this overall shape created with the LFOs and then tweak with the phase parameters just by listening to the sound how I like it best. Let's see how good that works. Now, if you feel like you have found settings that you like, you can just keep it there for that moment in time and then maybe keep on tweaking the depth. I think it's still too hard. And now I found a setting that I'm very happy with. As you can see, with this new procedural feature, you can use NEL as sort of a punch in vibrato, or I don't know how else I would describe it. Something that you can use to set a certain detail in the track, not something that runs all the time. And that's the new workflow that I'm enabling with this. Now I can go on to the next place where I have a long note, which is here.
I'm lying around thinking about what.
Now here I already have a great vibrato at the end, and I don't know if I need another one. Let's listen again.
Around thinking.
Maybe at the beginning I could use a little bit of it, so I can just dial it in.
Around thinking. Around thinking.
And now I could change the phase parameters as well if I wanted to. Let's see which one was the one that moves slower. The top one.
Around thinking.
The cool thing is you can just do that before the entire section begins, and then you are sure that it doesn't do anything strange, because you know it happens while the silence is being played, so it's alright.
Around thinking. Around thinking. Around thinking. Around thinking. Around thinking.
Great, so now that's how easy it is. I have finished the entire sequence now. Let's see.
Summer is over and all my friends are.
I think the depth is still too hard on this. It's too obvious. Let's go down.
Summer is over and all my
Oh, yeah.
friends are gone. I'm lying around thinking
I wanna see if it also does something cool on Gone.
of gone. Gone. Friends are gone. Friends are gone. Friends are gone. Friends are gone.
Interesting, that sounds very subtle.
Friends are gone. Friends are gone. Friends are gone.
Cool. So I think that is now a really nice workflow for these kind of things. Now, if you think that was everything there is to it, then you are wrong, because there is actually more. The Perlin Noise Modulator, it uses randomly generated noise in the style of Perlin Noise, which is usually used for the terrain generation in various computer games like Minecraft or No Man's Sky. It is the basic building block of these kind of things. I'm using it to generate noise that modulates the vibrato, and you can see up here, it's kind of a wiggly noise. And it's just constantly regenerating its value, unless you put the seed parameter that I now added to the modulator to anything else than 0, and that will make it locked to a certain position in the project. Wherever you are right now, it will be locked on that position, and that's pretty cool, because just like with the LFOs, you can now very finely define how the vibrato should sound like on that particular moment in time.
Summer is over and all my friends are gone.
Apparently I still have a bug to fix, but you can already look forward to this being implemented perfectly, and until then you can already enjoy it in the LFO modulator. I also plan on some other changes to my plugin NEL. I have collected some ideas for it over the years, and now it's time to actually go for it, because this is still my favorite project of all of the things that I made, and I just want this to be as good as I can. I put everything, you know, this is the main thing. It's the vibrato of the world. Alright, procedurally generated modulators. That is the thing that you can have if you go and download this plugin now. There are no Mac releases yet. I think I will ask my Mac friend once I have found out what's wrong with the Perlin Noise Modulator. You know, I cannot compile for Mac myself, so it makes sense to only ask my Mac friends about compiling my plugins when I actually think that there are no bugs left. But then, yeah, I will definitely also push a new update there.